Have you ever wondered if someone you loved might still be in purgatory? Have you ever felt a sudden ache in your heart, a strange longing, a moment of spiritual heaviness, and asked yourself where that soul might be? Have you ever sensed that death doesn't end love, and that a soul may still be reaching for God? Saint Faustina Kowalska knew that these questions are far more common than people admit, and what she revealed is both comforting and serious. The souls in purgatory are closer to us than we think, and sometimes they allow small signs of their presence to reach the living. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe. This channel is for those who want real insights from the saints, not superstition, only truth rooted in spiritual experience. Because today we follow Saint Faustina into one of the deepest mysteries she ever witnessed, 10 signs that a loved one may still be in purgatory, not to frighten you, but to teach you how to help them, how to comfort them, and how to bring them closer to the light of heaven. Faustina never treated purgatory as a place of horror or despair. In her diary she called it the place where the soul encounters the fire of God's love, a fire that burns away every imperfection, every wound, every trace of sin, so the soul can enter heaven radiant. But she also saw something few Christians realize. Souls in purgatory often hope for the prayers of those they left behind. They cannot help themselves, they cannot shorten their purification, they cannot increase their own longing or accelerate their ascent. But the living can. A single prayer, a single offering, a single moment of charity can relieve a soul's suffering more than we can imagine. Faustina wrote that the souls look toward earth like children watching a door, hoping someone will notice them, not with fear, not with dread, but with longing. Because love does not end at death, and neither does the bond between souls. Faustina learned that there are subtle signs, gentle movements, quiet interior experiences that can indicate a soul is still in purgatory. Not supernatural phenomena, not visions, but spiritual impressions that align with what she saw and wrote. And these signs are not meant to alarm you. They are invitations, moments where God gently nudges you to pray, to offer, to remember, to love. Today we will explore each one with reverence, clarity, and the wisdom of the saint who understood purgatory more deeply than almost anyone in modern history. The first sign Saint Faustina revealed is subtle, quiet, and easily ignored, yet it is one of the most common ways a soul in purgatory reaches the heart of the living. 1. A sudden, unexplainable feeling to pray for someone who has died. Faustina wrote that souls in purgatory cannot speak to us directly, but God allows their longing to brush against our hearts in moments of silence or stillness. This is not fear. This is not sadness without cause. This is not imagination. It is a spiritual nudge. You may be cooking, driving, cleaning, lying down to sleep, walking somewhere, thinking of nothing in particular, and suddenly the memory of a departed loved one bursts into your mind with unexpected clarity. Not grief, not nostalgia, but a gentle pressure, almost like a whisper of the soul. Remember me. Faustina said this happens because purgatory is a place of longing, and sometimes that longing touches the living so that they can help. In the diary she wrote, "I understood that souls in purgatory are grateful for the smallest prayer. When a soul is close to reaching heaven, or when its purification is intense, the longing becomes stronger, and God, in His mercy, lets the living feel that longing as a call to intercede. Many Christians mistake this for emotion, but Faustina revealed the truth. When a soul suddenly returns to your heart, it may be because God intends you to help them. And something extraordinary happens the moment you respond. She saw it with her own eyes. The soul receives relief instantly. A single prayer, a single Hail Mary, a single offering of your daily work can lift a heavy burden from them." Faustina wrote, "I saw a soul rise to heaven because of a simple, sincere prayer. Not because it deserved it, not because the prayer was long or eloquent, but because love always reaches them." This first sign is not dramatic. It is not supernatural. It is not mystical in the cinematic sense. It is simple. A name rising in your mind, a face coming into your heart, a pull toward prayer you didn't plan, a quiet reminder that love continues beyond the grave. And when it happens, you hold in your hands the chance to give a gift that a soul cannot give itself. The second sign Saint Faustina revealed is even gentler, so gentle that most people overlook it completely. Yet in her visions, it was one of the clearest ways God allowed purgatory to brush against earthly life. 2. A deep, sudden sense of compassion or sorrow for a deceased loved one without any external reason. This is not normal sadness, not grief from memory, not the emotional pain of loss. It is spiritual compassion, a wave that comes without warning, without context, without any earthly trigger. Faustina described it as a sorrow that does not come from oneself. It feels like a weight placed delicately on the soul, not crushing, not frightening, but solemn. Something inside you softens, your heart becomes tender, you feel moved without knowing why. And then the thought appears, I should pray for them. This interior softness is not psychological. It is a signal of love traveling between two worlds. Faustina saw that souls in purgatory often ache with holy longing, longing for God, longing for completion, longing for the prayers of the living. And sometimes God allows that longing to pass through the spiritual fabric of reality and touch someone who loved them on earth. Not to disturb them, not to frighten them, but to awaken love. She wrote, I felt compelled to pray by a sorrow that was not mine, and each time she obeyed that sorrow, she saw a soul receive comfort. In one vision, the compassion she felt lifted like a veil the moment she began to pray, as if the soul's longing had been quenched, even if only slightly. This is why the Church teaches us to pray for the dead, because love does not end with death, and our prayers can still embrace them. Most Christians ignore this sign. They chalk it up to sentiment or imagination. But Faustina insisted it was one of the most delicate forms of God's mercy. He lets the living feel the longing of the poor souls, so that love may respond. This sign can appear as a gentle ache in the chest, a sudden urge to light a candle, a desire to visit a grave, an impulse to pray a Hail Mary, a wave of sorrow that passes as quickly as it came, a memory that feels like a responsibility, not nostalgia. It does not linger. It does not oppress. It simply invites. And when you respond to it, you become part of a mystery larger than yourself, a lifeline between heaven and earth. Faustina taught that no prayer is ever wasted, and compassion, true spiritual compassion, is often the doorway through which a soul receives help. The third sign Saint Faustina revealed is quiet, rare, and profoundly meaningful. It is not dramatic or frightening, it is a grace, and she witnessed it more than once in her mystical experiences. 3. A recurring dream of a deceased loved one who appears peaceful, but waiting. Faustina taught that most dreams come from the mind, but some dreams, very few, carry a spiritual weight that cannot be confused with imagination. These dreams are different. They have a clarity, a stillness, a sense of presence that lingers long after waking. Faustina wrote that when souls appeared to her in dreams or visions, they never came to frighten or disturb. They came with purpose, to ask for prayer, to show gratitude, or to indicate their spiritual state. A loved one who is still in purgatory may appear in a dream, standing at a distance, in a dim light, wearing simple clothing, calm, never distressed, watching quietly, sometimes not speaking at all, sometimes simply looking at you with gentleness or longing. They are not in torment, they are not in despair, they are simply not yet in the fullness of glory. Faustina wrote, "The souls allowed to approach me did not speak with words, yet my soul understood their need." These dreams are not nightmares. They do not bring fear, they bring awareness. You wake with the unmistakable feeling that the dream meant something, that it was not random, that a soul is waiting, that your prayer matters. Sometimes the loved one may seem younger or healthier or unusually calm, a sign Faustina interpreted as a soul nearing its final purification. Other times the soul might appear slightly solemn, a sign of deeper longing. What matters is not imagery, but the spiritual tone, the quietness, the emotional clarity, the sense of invitation, not demand, the peace mixed with incompleteness. Faustina insisted that such dreams were not superstitions. They were expressions of mercy. Because when God allows a dream like this, He does so for one reason, so that you will pray. A dream like this is not a haunting. It is a request. A gentle, humble request from a soul that wishes to move closer to God, but cannot take the step alone. And the moment you pray, even a single Hail Mary, Faustina said, heaven receives it instantly, and the soul receives relief. This sign is not common, but when it happens, it carries great meaning. It is an invitation wrapped in peace, delivered through sleep, rooted in love. The fourth sign that a loved one may still be in purgatory is one of the most mysterious, yet St. Faustina said it happens more often than people realize. 4. A sudden, gentle inspiration to offer a sacrifice for someone who has died. This does not come as guilt, it does not come as fear, it does not come as pressure. It comes as a thought, quiet, unexpected, and strangely persistent. Something as simple as, I should offer this day for him. I'll give up this small comfort for her, so I can offer this annoyance for their soul. Let me turn this inconvenience into a prayer. This suffering could help someone I loved. Most people ignore these interior nudges, but Faustina learned that these inspirations are not accidental. She wrote, "When I felt inspired to make a small sacrifice, I understood that a soul was near." For Faustina, sacrifice was not dramatic. It was small. Skipping sugar in a drink, giving up a moment of comfort, accepting a painful emotion without complaint, choosing silence instead of arguing, performing a hidden act of kindness, enduring a headache or tiredness with patience, finishing a task she didn't want to do, offering her loneliness for a soul. These acts were tiny, but in purgatory, they were like cool water in a desert. Souls cannot perform sacrifices for themselves. They cannot grow. They cannot merit. They cannot choose pain or love to accelerate purification, but the living can. That is why God sometimes stirs the heart with subtle inspirations. Faustina said these inspirations feel like a quiet tug, a warm heaviness, a thought that feels not entirely yours, a movement of compassion, a desire to help without knowing why. She emphasized that such inspirations are invocations of mercy. Sometimes they come during moments of struggle, traffic, stress, irritation, hunger, disappointment. Sometimes they come during peace, prayer, silence, reflection, or even joy. Either way, when the thought arises, offer this for them. It is often a sign that God is using your heart as a channel of love for a soul that longs to reach heaven. Faustina even wrote that these inspirations are often signs that the soul is close to glory. The more insistent the invitation to sacrifice, the nearer the soul is to the brightness of heaven. This does not mean you must accept every inspiration perfectly. What matters is willingness. A single offering, made with sincerity, can shorten a soul's time in purgatory more than we can comprehend on earth. These inspirations are not burdens. They are invitations, small doors opened by God through which love passes into eternity. The fifth sign St. Faustina revealed is one of the most misunderstood, because most people don't realize it has spiritual meaning at all. 5. A sudden moment of peace while praying for a deceased loved one, a peace that feels not yours. Faustina experienced this repeatedly. She would begin praying for a soul with heaviness, concern, or compassion, and then, without warning, a deep, unusual stillness would enter her heart. Not emotion, not imagination, not distraction. A peace that felt as if it flowed into her rather than rose from her. She wrote, "I knew when a soul received grace, for my prayer suddenly became sweet and peaceful. This peace was a sign that the prayer had reached its target, a sign that the soul had received comfort, a sign that something invisible had shifted. Here's what makes this sign different from ordinary calm. It appears suddenly. One moment you feel normal, the next, a gentle serenity washes over you. It doesn't come from your thoughts. You can't think yourself into it. It feels like it arrives from beyond you. It is brief but unmistakable. It lasts seconds, maybe a minute, and then fades softly. It leaves a spiritual warmth behind. Something inside feels encouraged, even if the mind doesn't understand why. Faustina described this peace as a touch from the soul itself, a thank you that God allows them to convey indirectly, Souls in purgatory cannot communicate directly, but in God's mercy, He sometimes stirs a quiet grace in the heart of those praying for them. This peace is their silent gratitude, and it is not a sign that they are fully in heaven, but that your prayer has helped them move forward. Faustina wrote, "When the soul receives relief, the heart of the praying person feels God's nearness. Sometimes the peace is mild, sometimes it is strong enough to bring tears, but it always carries the same message. This prayer mattered. When you experience this kind of peace, you have participated in a mystery. Heaven responding gently to earth. A soul's suffering easing because of your love. A moment of grace crossing the veil." Faustina explained that these moments are small glimpses of how powerful intercession truly is. Most people ignore them, but the saints never did. To them, this sudden peace was like hearing a whisper through the walls of eternity. "Thank you." The sixth sign St. Faustina revealed is one that many Christians experience, but very few interpret correctly. It is not dramatic, not supernatural, and not frightening. It is a holy restlessness. 6. A growing, persistent feeling that you haven't prayed enough for someone who has died. Faustina explained that this feeling is not guilt and not fear. It is a spiritual prompting, a gentle but consistent tug in the heart that whispers, "Pray one more time. Offer another rosary. Light a candle for them. Remember them at Mass. Do not stop just yet." This restlessness does not accuse you. It does not condemn you. It does not shame you. Instead, it feels like unfinished love, a tenderness that keeps calling you back. Faustina wrote, "I felt a holy urgency for certain souls, as if God Himself asked me to continue praying." This sign often appears after the funeral, months later, even years later, long after you thought you had moved on. You are fine emotionally. You are not stuck in grief. You are not obsessed. But every once in a while, sometimes unexpectedly, the thought comes back, pray for them again. And it doesn't go away easily. Faustina explained that this happens because certain souls still have need of prayer, and God chooses a specific person to help them complete their purification. Why you? She wrote, "Souls draw near those who loved them on earth, and to those whose hearts can understand their need." This restlessness may feel like a tug on the conscience, a soft ache, a recurring thought, a sense of responsibility, an unspoken spiritual assignment. It is not dramatic, it is quiet, but it is persistent. And when you respond, when you pray one more time, something mysterious happens. Faustina said that this type of prayer often gives the greatest relief to souls in purgatory because it comes from perseverance, not obligation. She wrote, "The souls I helped most were the ones God placed repeatedly on my heart. This sign is important because it reveals a truth many Christians overlook. You may be the lifeline God chose for someone you love. And the restlessness you feel is simply the echo of a soul drawing closer to the gates of heaven and gently asking, just a little more." The seventh sign St. Faustina described is delicate, almost hidden, yet it is one of the clearest confirmations that a soul is still in purgatory and receiving help from your prayers. 7. A small blessing or unexpected grace that occurs right after you pray for a deceased loved one. This is not coincidence. This is not positive thinking. This is not emotional projection. Faustina said it plainly. When we pray for the dead, God often blesses the living. Not as a reward, but as a reminder. A reminder that heaven heard the prayer. A reminder that grace has moved. A reminder that love has crossed the veil. These blessings are subtle, everyday graces, not miracles, not dramatic signs, but small drops of divine tenderness. For example, something that worried you suddenly resolves. A burden on your heart feels lighter. A problem you've been stuck on becomes clear. Someone unexpectedly helps you. A long day suddenly becomes easier. A moment of joy interrupts your stress. A sense of protection surrounds you. A sudden feeling of safety washes over you. These things happen quietly, often within hours of praying for the departed. Faustina explained that this is because your prayer has opened a channel of mercy, and mercy never travels in only one direction. She wrote, "Grace poured out for souls in purgatory flows also upon those who pray." She described it as spiritual reciprocity, a mysterious exchange of love between earth, purgatory, and heaven. When you pray for a soul, they receive comfort, you receive grace. God receives love, everyone is touched. Faustina said that sometimes the souls themselves intercede for the living as soon as they receive relief. She wrote, "Grateful souls pray for their benefactors. Even before reaching heaven, a soul in purgatory can ask God to bless you out of gratitude for your charity, and God listens. That's why you may notice an unexplainable sense of protection, a moment of clarity, a sudden burst of hope, a calmness in your spirit, unexpected ease during a difficult task. These graces are signs that your prayer did not vanish into the air. It moved heaven, it comforted a soul, and heaven, in return, placed something gentle in your path. This sign should fill you with confidence, because it proves something Faustina repeated again and again. No prayer for the dead is ever wasted, ever. The eighth sign St. Faustina revealed is subtle but unmistakable once you recognize it. It happens not in dreams, not in visions, not in emotional moments, but in the ordinary rhythm of life. 8. A sudden desire to do an act of charity in their name. You're going about your day when a thought appears, I should give this to someone. I should help that person. Let me do this good deed for their soul. I want to offer this kindness for them. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel moralistic. It doesn't feel like guilt. It feels pure, almost spontaneous, like a breeze of goodwill moving through your heart. Faustina explained that when this kind of charity arises unexpectedly, it is often because a soul in purgatory is nearing its final purification, and God invites the living to take part in the last steps of their ascent to heaven. She wrote, God allowed me to feel when a soul needed charity more than prayer. Acts of charity, especially hidden ones, carry immense power for souls in purgatory. Why? Because charity is the fire of heaven. Prayer brings relief. Sacrifice brings acceleration. But charity brings light, and light is what purgatory burns away toward. When you feel inspired to do something kind in a loved one's memory, it may be a sign that your action becomes a spiritual bridge between worlds. These acts can be small: giving food to someone in need, offering patience to a difficult person, letting someone go ahead of you in line, calling someone who's lonely, helping a stranger, donating something quietly, performing a kindness anonymously, forgiving someone who hurt you. Most people brush these thoughts aside, but Faustina said they carry heaven's fingerprints. She wrote, "When charity rose in me suddenly, I knew a soul had stretched out its hands toward God." This sign has 3 characteristics. It comes unexpectedly. You weren't thinking about charity. It simply arises. It feels noble, even if inconvenient. You feel drawn toward goodness without struggle or pride. You think of the deceased person without effort. Their face enters your mind as softly as a falling feather. Faustina said this sign often appears when a soul is close to entering heaven. Your act of charity becomes the final push, the last drop of love needed to turn longing into glory. She wrote, "I saw souls rise to heaven on the wings of love offered by others." This sign is a profound reminder that charity is never isolated, never wasted, never forgotten. Every good deed done in their name is a step upward for a soul and a step inward for your own heart. The 9th and 10th signs St. Faustina revealed are the most striking ones, the clearest indications that a soul is still being purified and still reaching toward the light of heaven. They are also the signs people most often overlook. 9. A feeling of being spiritually nudged toward confession or repentance after praying for a deceased loved one. Faustina wrote something extraordinary. "When I prayed for certain souls, God showed me my own faults, for they needed mercy, and so did I. This is not guilt, it is not shame, it is not fear, it is clarity." Suddenly you feel the urge to go to confession, the desire to forgive someone, the need to apologize, the conviction to drop a sin, the impulse to clean your heart, the longing to make peace with God. Why does this happen? Because your prayer for the departed opens a channel of grace, and grace always flows both ways. When a soul receives light, some of that light touches you. Faustina said the souls in purgatory cannot help themselves, but they can help those who help them. And sometimes, the moment you intercede for them, God uses that moment to illuminate your own soul. This sign is one of the most powerful because it transforms both lives, the one still being purified and the one still walking on earth. 10. A persistent peace after praying for a loved one, the kind that feels like someone is safe, even if you can't explain why. This peace is different from ordinary calm. It feels deeper, warmer, almost protective. Faustina said she sometimes sensed when a soul had finally reached heaven. It was not a vision, not a voice, not a supernatural event. It was peace. A peace that settled on her spirit like a warm blanket on a cold night. A peace that made her heart rest. A peace that felt like completion. She wrote, "I knew a soul had entered glory when my heart became still, as if a weight had been lifted. This peace is gentle, lasting, unmistakable, not tied to emotion, not tied to circumstances, not caused by memory, deeper than happiness, deeper than relief. It is the peace of knowing, without words, without logic, that a soul has reached the place where longing ends and love begins." Faustina said this peace is a gift, God's way of comforting those who pray. It means your prayers mattered, your sacrifices mattered, your charity mattered, your love crossed eternity. Heaven received them, and now they are in the arms of God. Final thought. Saint Faustina's revelations remind us of something tender and profound. Love never ends, not even in death. Our prayers for the dead are not whispers into emptiness. They are ropes thrown across eternity into the hands of souls still rising toward God. When you feel these signs, even the smallest of them, you are not imagining anything. You are participating in mercy. You are touching the unseen. You are helping someone you love reach the light they were created for. And heaven sees every act, every prayer, every sacrifice. Nothing is forgotten, nothing is wasted, nothing is small.